So now that she's here and safe, I can talk about the absolute disaster her courier was. So, because she's from Belarus and it's becoming a war zone, it's really not recommended for Americans to be traveling to Belarus right now. So I ideally like to get my cats myself, and that just wasn't the safest option for me to go over there and get her. I also need to get a passport, and I didn't think I'd get my passport in time. So I made the decision to get a courier. You can fly in cabin with a cat, depending on the country, or you can have them shipped cargo. And I'm not okay with that for so many reasons, but I really wanted Faerie to come here in cabin, and I was willing to pay whatever that cost was going to be to get her here. I almost spent as much on her flight to the US as I did on her, in the hopes that it would be as quick and stress-free as possible, which it ended up not being. And I'm very upset about that. Very nasally right now. I'm immunocompromised, and when I get stressed out, my body just tries to kill me. So I sound awful right now. Yeah, it's all because I was worried about you. Just been crying the last 2 days. I've been so stressed out because I was onto this dude. I knew that he was being a shady fucker after I sent her deposit, and it's just been a nightmare. So the first courier took over a week, and I had her response, and that was the breeder's normal courier. So at that point, she was like, is it okay if I contact somebody else that has good recommendations? And I was like, yeah. And she sent me who she was looking at, and looking at Facebook, I couldn't find anything negative about him. On his profile, you see all these smiling photos of people getting their cats at the airport, which we'll get to that later. So I was like, okay, I don't see anything bad. I see all these reviews and people being happy and multiple different kinds of breeds and everything. He clearly does this all the time. So yeah, that's fine. So we contact him. The contact was great. He was right away, even though, he's in a different time zone and he's traveling all the time. The communication was great until I sent the deposit, which was half of the flight cost. So I sent over the $750, and I was like, okay, let me know, because we ended up having to do it through PayPal. Let me know when you receive it. He didn't tell me he received it. Great communication right away. All of a sudden, didn't tell me that he received the deposit. So I'm like, okay, are we good? Did you get it? Is there a mistake? I'm trying to get this taken care of. And to understand my nervousness, my schedule is booked out months in advance. I'm a pet groomer, and I'm one of the few groomers that grooms cats. I'm trained at grooming cats. So my schedule is insane. And before I groomed cats, I was known as the psycho dog groomer. I was the one that everybody took their crazy ass dog to. So I have a lot of special babies that come to me, and so my schedule is just super booked out. I also do a lot of breed cuts and stuff, so I'm very sought after in my area, and I'm booked out months in advance. So it's very difficult for me to just be like, oh, I'll just take off. I'm booked out. And she's already 6 months old. So I know the breeder was in a hurry as soon as she got her health stuff that she wanted to send her here. So I sent him my availability, and I was completely willing, if he could at least get her to New York or something, I would possibly fly and go grab her. And he's pretty much just ignoring me at this point. Like, he wouldn't even discuss dates before I sent the deposit, which I was like, that's kind of shady. I've worked with so many couriers, and I love couriers. They're special people. I love most animal transportation people, and they're godsend when things get tough. And I've never had this absolute trash of communication. I understand that there was a language barrier, and I'm a very understanding, I'm a patient person. Like, I love different types of people, different worlds. My husband is a black man. He's Muslim. Like, I love different types of people. I really try hard not to discriminate. And like, I understand that English was definitely not his first language, and I don't think he spoke very good English. So the breeder was awesome. She speaks Russian. She made a group chat for us all to discuss the date, and he just completely went straight misogynistic pig on me and just ignored all the messages I would send him. And then he started talking with her in Russian and just like completely pretending like I wasn't even there. And like, I'm sitting here like, I need to know when we're looking at, and he's just like acting like I don't matter, even though this cat literally belongs to me. At this point, she's holding the cat. I've paid for the cat. I'm the owner. I should know what all's going on, and I also need to be able to pick her up when she gets here. So my availability does matter, and I don't even live in the state that she landed at, because I live in BFE. Like, there's nowhere to eat where I live. We don't even have a gas station technically. We got a postal office, an elementary school, and a church. It is a tiny town, so I had to drive into Missouri to go get her. So it was already a big show. So it had to go revolve around my schedule. He pretends like my schedule doesn't matter. So they're talking in Russian, and I'm just like, what the actual? So I don't know what he was thinking, like that I don't have friends that speak Russian, because I do. I have a Russian breed, so I screenshotted it and I sent it to my friend, and I'm like, what are they talking about? She goes, oh, they're are you getting a cat? Because they're saying they're going to drop her off on the 27th. And I'm like, oh, that's hilarious, because nobody discussed that with me. So yeah, he just went ahead and bought the tickets without making sure that worked for me. So I'm trying not to lose time, and hopefully there's not going to be a part 2, because I'm at 8 minutes. But so then I'm like, fine, whatever, I'll make it work. But he wouldn't give me the flight information, and I kept like nagging, like, I need this, and he kept like just completely ignoring my question, gaslighting me, just being like, everything's fine, everything's to schedule, blah blah blah. Like, no, there's a problem, you haven't even told me. He doesn't know that I know. I'm like, you haven't even told me when my cat's getting here, so how is everything okay? So eventually I get out of him when she's getting here. And that was only because I got a hold of his wife, and she made an oopsie for him, but not for me. She sent me the flight that he was flying into here on. And I'm like, the day before she got here, the breeder told me, let me know as soon as you get her. And I'm just sitting here like, she doesn't fly here until tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, Google says this is an 11-hour flight. Yeah, that son of a bitch flew her from New York to Texas, just flies over my state. And I guarantee he had another cat, at least another cat, trying to piggyback off of my cost. I'm sure he charged them for what it was going to cost to fly here. There's going to have to be a part 2. It's too juicy, and I'm so mad. My poor baby.